petit, on peut les déconstruire. Je pense qu'au moins, dans notre pays, sur ces deux aspects, il y a quelque chose à faire. L'ère de la mondialisation fera en sorte que si notre modèle s'apaise, il pourra, sans chauvinisme aucun, puisse être transmis ailleurs.
Merci beaucoup, Relais, pour cette excellente conclusion. Je crois qu'il va
clôturer
nos débats, mais je crois qu'il y a une remarque.
Je voudrais dire merci à Manel, notre traductrice, parce que Manel fait partie exactement de cette rencontre interconfessionnelle autour des questions de l'antisémitisme. C'est une traductrice qui s'inscrit elle-même en tant que professeure en Belgique dans une action contre l'antisémitisme. Alors bravo Manel pour ta traduction et pour ton action.
Malheureusement, on n'a pas le temps de prendre de questions, n'est-ce pas? Bon, d'accord. Je voulais remercier donc nos intervenants. Je crois qu'on a eu un débat de très très bonne tenue. Et j'espère qu'on a assez, je crois qu'on a assez de food for thought, mais encore une fois, merci messieurs pour vos remarques pénétrantes.
Okay, just before we go to the next one, just a minor couple of announcements. Unless anyone has any major objections, we're going to try and move the last panel to before lunch. We'll finish on time. It's just that means that at lunch, people can sit down, have some lunch, and then hopefully enjoy a bit of Paris because it's been a rather long time. So the aim is to finish at lunchtime. So we're talking about going for another hour maximum, okay, after the next panel, and then call it a day at that, if that's okay. So, no major objections to that. So, we've just been talking about education. Another vital part of what we do is ensuring that we have a Jewish future. And having a Jewish future means having a youth that are engaged and involved. So I'm going to hand over to our next moderator, who is Mr. Oliver Bradley, and a panel of youth leaders to talk about bringing the youth up. Thank you, Oliver.
Hello. Hello. Does this work? Yes. Hello, my name is Oliver Bradley. I'm the colleague here from the EJA based in Berlin, Rome, and then traveling around other places where we are trying to engage people. One of the things I would like to do with this next panel is to try to keep it as short as possible, because a lot of the themes that we've been talking about today are actually themes that touch upon almost what everybody has talked about. One of the things I've been hearing right now, the feedback, there's not a lot of Q&A possibilities. All the people who, for example, were in the previous panel, I do know there were several people who wanted to ask questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to gear and steer this next panel in such a way that people can ask the panelists and the people who are in the room who have also been on panels the questions that maybe have been lingering, because a lot of the topics are literally, there's that golden thread that goes through all the topics of conversation. So let's keep this as compact as possible. I'd like to introduce the Engaging Youth Panel, Ensuring a Jewish Future in Europe, but of course anywhere in the world, because the topics are also very relevant in the United States. So if I could please ask to the podium Nina Zoschner. She's the director of the Youth Federation in Sweden. May I ask Alex Hearn? He's in the Labour Party movement against anti-Semitism. I would like to call to the podium Simone Santoro. He's the relatively newly elected president and general director of the Union of Italian Youths and Young Professionals. I would like to call to the stage Claudia Klimek. She's the founder of Journalism Foundation in Poland. And I would like to ask to the podium Tamir Vacbaga, Director of Foreign Affairs, Action and Protection League from Hungary. And I'm one of these people, I don't like to stand, so I'm going to sit in the red chair. And we put this here. So there's been a mantra, and the mantra that I've heard most of the time today, yesterday, about a month ago, and even when I was interviewed on German television, it's education, education, and education. And it's always this three: education, education, education. I find personally that the theme and the topic gets ignored. Everybody talks it, nobody does it. I'll be very brutal. I was interviewed on Germany's largest news television network. I mean, it's the state network, but they have the highest ratings for news viewers. And the journalist was asking me, for example, about what can one do to engage people, to learn about anti-Semitism, how to combat it, how to learn about remembrance, Holocaust education, but at the same time also how to educate youths, also Jewish youths. I said education, education, education. I said a few other words, and that was totally cut out of the broadcast. And it was by the way, it was a 15-minute broadcast, so it wasn't 2-minute news tidbit. Now, my question is, why is education in a way ignored? Everybody talks it, nobody does it. I work on grassroots projects in Berlin, and I know that one of our biggest issues is the funding and the financing. One reason nothing really gets done, or let's put it this way, that no sustainable impact is being done, is because the investments are failing, and oftentimes the investments are being made by, let's say, non-governmental organizations, grassroots groups, but it should actually come top down, because in the end of the day, financing that comes from top down should, in the theory, be also spread equitably amongst all institutions that need to do their education. So one of the things, though, that we've talked about today was education and educating non-Jews on how to be more engaging with, thank you, how to be more engaging with their, let's say, minority populations, combating anti-Semitism, etc. Now we're going to focus a little bit also on education. I think it's a good topic on how to engage youths, Jewish youths, to be more engaging in their Judaism, more engaging in their Jewish societies, be more engaging in society as a whole, but as Jews. Yesterday at the dinner, the talk about indifference. A lot of Jews are indifferent about their own heritage. It's not just Jews. I mean, a lot of people from a lot of groups are global thinking people, come maybe from multiple heritages. They don't necessarily feel that there's any one particular reason why they have to uphold and promote their own background, because there are a lot of backgrounds that are interesting, and one can adopt other backgrounds and become also from other cultural societies. So indifference is one topic that we should talk about. The other topic is anti-Semitism against Jews has created, and this was also touched upon several times, has created a situation where young people in particular, I mean, if you look at the statistics, are always more and more apt to not show their Jewish heritage. And the more you hide, the more there is a risk of assimilation and disappearing from, let's say, the radar, the cultural radar. So my question would be to all of the panelists: what are you doing to engage young Jews to be more aware of their Judaism, to be more impactful about their Judaism, to maybe even be more credible, because there are a lot of education projects out there that oftentimes also within the Jewish spectrum have an agenda. Sometimes it's a very strong Zionist agenda, which, let's say, what's the organization that takes young people to Israel? Birthright, for example. But Birthright, it has been shown that Birthright actually is engaging a lot of young people to be Jewish, but at the same time, it's alienating a lot of Jews from their Judaism because they find that there's sometimes too much of a connection between Israel and Judaism. And that's also one of the issues that I think we face. So I would say, let's just start in the order of where I'm sitting right here. Maybe Tamir could give a little bit of an example because he's working on an international level. The Action and Protection organization has also done or is working on its survey on how to combat anti-Semitism. Let's say what's moving the people in general in this topic. And so I would say let's start with you.
Okay, thank you. First of all, and to be honest, I was born and raised in Israel, so the challenge of being a Jew or to feel belong to any Jewish community never was an issue for me. But since I live in Hungary for the last 2.5 years, I absolutely can understand this challenge of young people, young Jewish people, and their sentiments or connection to Judaism. In my opinion, I think that the most important thing, especially for young people, is first of all, and I think maybe it's also because I'm coming, from the political level, from the international field. I think that it is very important for us as well to keep the Jewish issue and also Israel beyond politics, because I think that one of the main problems are that for many young Jews, to be Jew, it means to be part of some community means also to belong to some political side or political group. And I think that it's really a wrong attitude. It's a big mistake to give the young people the feeling that they can be Jews only if they are thinking in some way. And I think that the most important thing is to let the young people the ability to express or to connect the aspect of Judaism that they are more related or more comfortable with. So this is about your question.
And probably Birthright is an example, I think, of this. There is a political agenda to it, and it does dissuade some people who are interested in their Judaism in relationship to Israel. And oftentimes Israel, though, is the new anti-Semitism excuse. And, that would be, I think, on that line, how to combat that. So Simone Santoro, if you could give us...
Thank you. Well, in terms of, first of all, welcome everybody. Thanks, Oliver, for inviting me.
By the way, the power of Facebook. I only discovered him literally last week.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, it's been such an important initiative. So I really wanted to be here and to share our Italian experience in terms of youth Judaism, which is not always easy in order to provide the needed aggregation. What I mean is that depending on the community of belonging, from young person to young person, we have a different feeling of mutual need. So for instance, in my medium-sized community in Turin, we do feel the need of interchanging opinions, living the Shabbat together amongst young Jews all over the country, or worldwide, for instance, or internationally, and so on. In other cases, in some other situations, I have to state that, for instance, in bigger communities, such as Rome, Milan, talking about Italy, this need, this feeling is definitely less perceived. They often feel more autonomous because they do have their daily Jewish life within their cities. So the first thing as a young Jewish activist we have to do, is to provide to all those young people we coordinate this feeling of mutual need, the possibility of sharing our opinions, our different backgrounds. This is all based on mutual respect and dialogue. Respectful, humble dialogue, which is not obvious, not at all. In particular, in the age or era of the social media, dialogue has become more, how can I say, more keyboardy? I don't know how to say it really. I would like to find a proper expression. It's less intense, it's less respectful, given that we are communicating to each other behind a monitor often. This is not the rule, but this phenomenon is increasing, and month by month, year after year, we have the perception that the actual dialogue, the dialogue which really matters, which is the form to exchange not only opinions but backgrounds, because we are all Jews, but we are way different one to another. We have different educational background, we have different instruction, we have a different political point of view, we have a different rate of religiousness, I don't know if it's correct to say. So we do see things in many different ways. So what do we have in common? We still have a lot in common. So this is our political line. This is what we are trying to implement this year. The work is hard. We need some time in order to provide this awareness. But it is crucial. This is the way I see things. This is crucial because we have to state, we don't need to hide behind the things we have in common. We have many things in which we can have different opinion, we can argue about them, we can have different points of view and different ideas about how the world goes. But still, we need to focus, as well as in the things which make us different, we do have to focus a little bit more on what makes us a people. And we do need to do it now. We cannot put it off. We need it, not only for anti-Semitism. We need to do that also for the joyful aspects of our identity. This is not a matter of anti-Semitism and that's it. This is a matter of identity. The Jewish identity, this needs to be reminded every now and then, is full of joyful aspects and moments. We do know that. But do other people know that as well as we do? This is important. And one last thing I want to add concerns European asset of education. Every now and then I ask myself, how much do I know about Sweden recent history? Close to nothing.
You'll learn it.
But why? We dream a a united, a politically, historically, well, economically, technically united Europe. But we should definitely deepen a little bit the history of each other's. Because if not, to build a European Jewish youth becomes quite hard. We need to share more than our Jewish identity. We should share our European identity by learning. Because if not, things are feasible, they are, but they become quite harder to implement.
Well, I mean, one of the things we can always say is that Jews are normal people also, and they do diverge in their political ideas. And this is one of the topics, I think, that does divide a lot of Jewish youths. There is the disenfranchisement. There are people, there are Jews who are, let's say, and I always take Israel as oftentimes the divergence in how youths interact with each other within Europe. Because it's a political thing too. Are people are youths interested, or Jews in general in Europe, interested in a two-state solution, a one-state solution, another solution, and it tends to be drawn on, well, if you're against that political system in Israel, then you're a traitor amongst us. And this is one of the things, to find the common bond and not just always reduce it to the political. If I can now just ask Claudia Klimek.
Yes, hello. I'm going to reply more on your question, how to keep the community together, how to make more activism among the young Jews. Well, when I'm thinking about the Jewish community, I'm looking, and if I'm trying to look at from the bird view on it, and how I was always learn about it, we were always saying that there are children, there are teenagers, there are students, then there are young adults, then there is some kind of a gap, and then there are seniors. And if we think about our Jewish communities, yes, we do have the special projects for the kids. We have special projects for the teenagers, for the students. We have special projects for the elderly people. But I'm asking myself, when and where do we have projects, and where do we have a space for so-called young adults, or even a little bit older, people which are not students anymore? They just went to the world, they finished studies, they started to work, they are professionals, they have networks, they become directors of some companies. Where do we have place for that kind of people? Because when we think about the Jewish community, and I was always taught like that we have the leaders and we have the followers. The leaders mostly work in the Jewish organizations, and the followers are those who are making the crowd for those who lead, those who are coming for Shabbat dinners, those who take part in the Purim parties, those who are the recipients of what the leader does for them. But very often, and this is what I noticed in my community, Polish community, which is a small community, we don't have thousands of Jews. We cannot allow ourselves to lose even one Jew, to make him go away, be more, to adapt into the wider society and forget that he's Jewish, or forget that he was active when he was young and now he cannot be because he doesn't have time. So I'm thinking about that kind of people. What do they need? Because they don't usually have time. They have families, they go to work. Sometimes they come for Shabbat dinner, sometimes they come for Yom Kippur. But they cannot be any more activists. They don't have time, or they don't see themselves in such a role. But in my opinion, those are the most important people because they are in the top of their strength in life. They are 35, they are 40. They, as I said, they are professionals. They have a network of very, very important people around themselves. And somehow we are not using them because we don't have a project. There's nothing for them. So what I created in my foundation, it was an idea, the space for the people that don't want to be member of 10 associations. They don't want to be the leaders. But from time to time, they have an idea, a very good idea, and they just want to implement it. They're coming there saying, hi, well, I know someone who is a great musician, and I thought that actually in my company, we could do a Jewish concert. But, you know, I'm not a member of your organization. I don't know if I can do it with you or I cannot do it with you. Well, I don't have really money. I don't know how to fundraise, but you think that it will cost a lot or not a lot? Will you help me in fundraising? And I'm saying, yes, it's easy to conduct. And I'm very happy that there's this initiative in this person's mind. And this is what is important for me. So my foundation creates a space for the people who from time to time has a great idea, but they just need a help. You said that very often we have this problem that the young people have the ideas, but we have this top-down constructions of the organization. If you want to do something, you have to come, you have to ask, you have to be a member, there must be some kind of money, it has to be implemented somehow. Well, I'm thinking that what is the strength of the young people, and it always was, always, that even without the money, even without the structure of the organization, young people were always able to create something. The young people, the startups, that they were doing something in the garage, creating the first computer. This is the strength of the young people. So what I'm saying to them, that they don't have to care about all those stuff, because that's why they have people that work in the organizations, they receive money to make space for them to create and to give them as much possibilities. So, and coming to the question about the anti-Semitism and the education. Well, education is for educated. Well, I think that the education, it's always, sometimes education seems to like, it looks like education, well, it must be boring because we have to educate, we have to talk, someone has to listen. No, we have to go out with the education to the fields that we are not there yet. It's not about doing the conference for those who are already convinced about the topic. It's easy to talk about anti-Semitism to people who